It's around, not that strong, I think.
So the highlight of the paper for me is at least the diversity of the authors and where they're from. That tells you the scale in which the work took place. So let's hear it from him.
Thank you so much. So, hello everyone. I'm Lakmal. I'm a fifth-year PhD student at EPFL in Switzerland. I'm also a research assistant at IDEAP Research Institute in Switzerland. So, on behalf of all my co-authors, today I'm going to talk about model generalization issues in mobile sensing, focusing on mode inference. So, mode inference with smartphone sensor data has been studied for a long time in UbiComp and even mental health literature. And prior work has shown that phone usage features and sensor features could infer mood with decent performance. So these kind of inferences are very useful in context-aware and personalized mobile applications. Valuable feedback, it can provide valuable feedback and interventions in mobile health applications. And also, if we can accurately and longitudinally track mood, it's very useful to extract clinically relevant mood trajectories, which could be informative about depression, anxiety, and a lot of other conditions. In this context, if we focus on the prior work, while the focus has been on improving the accuracies of models using different sensors and machine learning techniques, most prior studies have focused on building models for very homogeneous populations within a single country and with small data sets. So to make things even complicated and worse, UbiComp is weird. What do I mean by weird? Basically, most previous studies in homogeneous populations have in fact focused on weird populations, that is Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic populations. So because of these, the data sets that capture behavior of people in the global south are kind of lacking in UbiComp. As a consequence of all these things, even though examining issues like generalization or external validity of models in cross-country and cross-cultural settings is very important and have been studied in a lot of other domains like computer vision and natural language processing extensively, as the UbiComp community, we are kind of still scratching the surface in this regard. So we don't have a clear idea on how multimodal sensor-based behavioral models work across different countries and cultures. So to solve this issue, we collected a unique, large-scale and a multi-country dataset. To do this, we developed and deployed a mobile application called iLog that allows users to provide in-situ self-reports. And at the same time, this app also captured passive sensor data from users throughout the whole period using 10 different types of sensors. And the data collection was done in 8 countries. You can see the list of countries here. It spans Asia, Europe, and Latin America as well. And in addition to that, we collected data from around 678 college students, and they contributed to good quality data and complete data like throughout the whole 4 weeks. At the end, we had around 329K self-reports over these 4 weeks, and these self-reports capture the everyday life behavior, activities, mood, social context, and even eating and drinking behaviors. So, and the good news, the dataset will be available to the public as well. So in terms of the overview of the study, it's summarized here. Let me go through each one section at a time. So we have 10 sensing modalities in green color, including activity levels and types, step counts, location, app usage, and screen usage related features. And with a time window based approach, we extracted around 100 features to train our models. Then we have 2 different types of models. These are called model types. They are population level and hybrid models. Population level is non-personalized, so the evaluation is done in a leave and out setting. The users seen in testing are unseen during training in very simple terms. In the hybrid setup, we either use a pre-trained population level model and fine-tune it, or retrain the model for the target user depending on the type of model that we use. This way we trained different types of models, including multi-layer perceptron neural networks and random forest classifiers. Then we also had another interesting set of approaches. So first one is country-specific approach. So this is where models are trained and tested within countries. So this is kind of similar to how researchers evaluate their models in usual UbiComp studies, because data collections are usually done within a single country. So this is an approach that is commonly seen in research. Next, we can move to country-agnostic setup or the approach. This is where models are trained in one or more countries and tested in an unseen country. So this kind of allows us to examine the generalization performance of models or the external validity of models. And this is a setup that is rarely examined in previous work because these kind of data sets are not available in a way. And finally, we also have multi-country approach. So this is like a generic approach where we train like a one-size-fits-all model using all the countries without even considering country information. And then the targets, in terms of targets, we have 2 inferences about mood in the paper. So these mood labels were captured based on the circumplex mood model. All right, so let's take a look at the key findings. First, country-specific approach performed with AUC scores above 0.76 with hybrid models, multi-country with an AUC of 0.78 with hybrid models, and finally, country-agnostic approach that evaluates the generalization performance of models provided a maximum AUC of 0.73 across over 50 training and testing country pairs. So what does this mean? Models do not generalize well to unseen countries, even after we personalize the models. And there is a distribution shift across countries, and the shift varies for different sensor modalities. Then the second set of results. So we found that models trained in European countries perform better when deployed in other European countries than in Mongolia, Paraguay, China, Mexico, or India. However, we did not see the same pattern for Asian countries. For example, if you train a model in India or China, if you try to deploy it to other Asian countries, we did not see the same pattern. So what this means is that where a model was originally trained in matters to the extent of generalization and then later personalization that can be achieved in target countries or target populations. So going to the last slide, this is the conclusion and key lessons. The first one, better domain adaptation and domain generalization techniques to handle multimodal data are needed in UbiComp. So current techniques in computer vision and NLP are not directly applicable to sensor data that we deal with, especially because of the complexity of data. So we need more work in this direction in the future. The second one, just personalizing models to individuals in target countries, assuming that it would work, might not always work, and it's not enough. We need adaptation or generalization first, and then personalization to achieve good performance in these kind of models. And finally, the most important point, in my opinion, we need diversity awareness in UbiComp research for far-reaching impact and to move beyond research on weird populations. So thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions later.
Thank you. Finished 30 seconds early. Can I have the next speaker started?
Yeah, thank you for the interesting talk and for this work and the awareness it draws. My question is, looking at why sort of generalization happened better between some countries than others is kind of like why that occurred. Is it a data quality thing? Does it deal with like homogeneity or heterogeneity within certain populations, certain features? Just any thoughts you might have.
Sorry about that. So at the end of the day, I think what we're measuring is the behavioral diversity of people. So mobile sensing features are basically behaviors of people, of app usage, activity, step counts, and all that. So in different countries, people have different behaviors. And ignoring this diversity would be catastrophic, as we would create like very biased models that would not work. That is kind of happening these days, I guess.
So kind of following up, like how would you kind of deal with it in, as you mentioned, that some of it could be clinically useful, right? So if you look at clinical assessment, like the PHQ-9 or other things that are used, that have been shown to be reliable across population and across countries. So kind of following up the why, like there are consistency across behaviorally that those assessments are tapping into. So do you have thoughts on kind of, and a lot of times in the UbiComp state, one of the way is like levels of abstraction, right? Are you looking at the low-level sensor data versus those behavioral concepts that are associated with the the kind of depression or anxiety. So how do you see kind of some of the aspects of clinical assessment being reliable across population and the discrepancy here, and how the community can make those things align better?
So that's a very interesting question. So thank you so much. So in my opinion, there are like two aspects to this, I think. So first of all, from a machine learning perspective, if you talk about distribution shift, so clinical validity of this kind of questionnaires kind of solves the issue of label distribution, label shift. But at the same time, even after that, like if we consider mobile sensor data, correlated shift would be there. So in a way, even though we would not have label shift, still the correlated shift would be there, leading to these kind of issues of generalization. That is like one aspect. And on the other hand, I think like as UbiComp researchers, we are kind of dealing in the space of analytical validation of models, and we are not really dealing with clinical validation of models in a way. So we are still in the early phase in this kind of research. So obviously we alone cannot do it. So we need a lot of collaborations with other researchers, especially clinical researchers, to go forward, I guess. Thanks for the questions.
We allowed more time because you finished early. All right, we had 2 papers on mood, but the third one is on affect. So, Iranzao, take it away.